Ranking UK theme parks is risky business because everybody values different things. So I've gone through all the parks and rated various different aspects. I already know some of this is going to be heavily debated, and that is kind of the point. Let's start at the bottom of the pile with a park that is definitely not doing very well, and that's even if you've been to the park, which is kind of the point. It's technically my local park because it is only about 40 minutes away, and that is M&D's. I did a video here a couple of months back, and a lot of feedback was fairly similar that this park is just a shadow of its former self. Not to say it was ever one of the better ones in the UK, but it's definitely gone downhill. Consistently did bad in every category I rated it in, and I actually struggled to identify who this park is aimed at. Maybe it's the younger audience, because they've stripped out a lot of the thrill rides over the years, but even then I'm not convinced it does a very good job of that either. So yeah, start at the bottom of the pile, Scotland's entry. Right next up, we go a little bit further down south to another park that is largely forgotten about by most, and that is Flamingoland. This is a weird park because on paper it's got a reasonable selection of rides. Sick is actually a pretty good ride. Hero isn't, obviously that is absolutely terrible. And I think that's the problem. It doesn't really have a great vision for where it's trying to go with this park. There's not really that kind of draw to bring people there. And to be honest with you, even if they were to bring in the UK's first RMC, I'm not convinced it would do that much to draw the crowds. It is a park that I visit once in a blue moon. I've already said I might visit it this year for the new Lost River ride reimagining. Other than that, it's not really a park that draws me back, so I'd love to know your thoughts on this one, but it's quite near the bottom of my pile. The next park I've got is right the way down at the bottom of England, and it's one that I didn't think I'd be going back to, but some recent events might change that and might indeed bring this further up the list. That is Pleasurewood Hills. It's a park that was previously owned by the Looping Group, the same people that own Drayton Manor, but it seemed to be forgotten by them because Drayton Manor's got all this attention and love and retheming and all this kind of stuff, and it's not. And I did wonder if it was just its location that was the problem, because it is kind of out of the way for a lot of people, but it has now been taken over, and the new group that have taken over, I don't remember their name, they are already saying they're bringing in some new rides for 2026. So I'm curious to see if this park increases, because I think it does have a lot of potential. Its location is problematic, not going to lie, but yeah, as it stands right now, just when I was there last year, there just wasn't enough. It's like this park has potential, it's just not quite reached it. So let's see what happens in 2026, shall we? The next one, I've kind of put this one middle of the road, and to be honest, I've only visited it once, so bear that in mind with this kind of rating, and that is Fantasy Island. And I'm kind of a little frustrated that the day I was there, Odyssey was not running. So I haven't experienced that, and a lot of people say it's one of the few SLCs that's worth getting on. It's obviously unique, it's a different layout, etc., and it's much bigger. So I'm sure I'll get back at some point and give it another shot, but for me, it's just kind of middle of the road. It's kind of weird in that the indoor section is really well themed. The outdoor rides are kind of okay, hit and miss. There's obviously the big coasters, there's some flat rides, and then there's kind of situated around it is that market, which I guess is kind of unique. So yeah, I've just kind of chucked this one middle of the road. Right, the next one is a park that I suspect a lot of people have just completely ignored. It's quite small, and it is definitely unique and quirky, and that is Joyland down in Great Yarmouth. Now, I went there, I was there for Great Yarmouth Pleasure Beach. It's just along the road, but mainly because of the the tub twist, the spinning thing. It's definitely the draw to that little park, because it's the last of its kind. It's not quite a full Virginia reel, but it's kind of the same sort of style, and it's bonkers. Absolutely mental, slightly painful, but a lot of fun. The park's also kind of good value for money, or at least I think it is. I know the kind of whole token-based thing is a debate of itself, because, arguably if you want to do a lot in that park, it could cost you quite a lot. And for me, I just wanted to get on a handful of attractions, so buying a couple of tokens worked out really well. So it's definitely of the quirkier side, and if you are in the area, I strongly recommend it, if not just for that one ride. This next one might be one of the controversial ones on the list, and that is Legoland Windsor. I have not been the biggest fan of this park, and I want to love it. I love Lego. I've got plenty of it here, and I grew up with Lego, etc. So the concept of Lego and rides to me is just absolutely brilliant. My problem is, on the handful of occasions I've visited this park, the operations are shocking. probably one of the worst I've seen in the UK, and from speaking to staff, they kind of acknowledge it. There's no kind of motivation from the management to go any faster. It's always a tricky one when you've got a park aimed at that younger audience, because kids don't really queue and they don't like doing what they're told, and it gets a bit messy when you've got the younger audience. The ride lineup is okay. Minifigure Speedway, it's not bad. I mean, look, they're never going to have the big thrill rides, right? That's not their demographic by any stretch of the imagination. It's very well themed, you know, that whole kind of Lego theming. I just think this park has always let me down. I'm sure I'll be there again this year, because I typically do my kind of go down south for a week and do all the parks. So I'll probably give it another shot this year. But I just don't rate it. Right, next one I've got here is, again, sort of right the way down south, or everything's down south for me, right? It's Chessington World of Adventures. Now, this park is kind of in a transition right now. They've obviously been stripping a lot of stuff out. They're obviously putting a lot of stuff in. There's the whole new Paw Patrol section that'll come this year, with that new coaster and a couple of flats. There's the Minecraft area coming next year. So, you know, it's going through a kind of transitional phase. It's a strange park that's definitely got some good rides. I do like their Mirror spinning ride, Dragon's Fury I think it is. It's one of the better ones, although it's weird that they weigh you to go on that ride. Okay, sure. The new one in Jumanji area, Mandrill Mayhem, that's pretty good. I quite like that. But there's just a few hit and miss. I also like Gruffalo, actually, but bizarrely it's kind of like a little boat ride. I didn't go on Bubble Factory, wherever that was before. I know people are very passionate about that one, so we're kind of slowly getting up there. I think this one is kind of one to watch. Obviously a lot of development going on, so maybe it'll creep up my list in future years. That brings you to a park that I'm very vocal about, very passionate about. That is Blackpool Pleasure Beach. Now, this is a park that is definitely in a strange space right now. They've said off their own back that they are in this kind of transformational phase or transitional stage. Can't remember exactly how they worded it. Long story short, they acknowledge that they've lent on heritage for a long time. You know, the park is 130 years old this year, but they realise that, you know, whilst there are those diehard fans who really appreciate those older attractions, the younger audience doesn't care. I'm sure somebody's going to come in the comments and go, my 5-year-old loves the Grand National. Not saying nobody likes it, I'm just saying the core demographic that they're aiming for kind of wants bigger and better and modern and newer and all that kind of shiny stuff. And the problem is the park doesn't exactly have an unlimited budget, right? They're definitely struggling, and I think that's true of almost all the parks we're talking about here. You know, money is not exactly abundant. Clearly that'll be different when Universal comes along. I'm sure they'll be the top of this list when they open. So I'm curious, they've obviously put Evictus in this year. They're doing something to River Caves. I'm sure we're going to get a new coaster, etc. I think the park will look very different by the time that Universal opens. Not some people are like, oh, it'll be shut by the time Universal comes. I really hope not. With 130 years under its belt and so many memories for most of us, I really hope it sticks around. But I think this park is one to keep an eye out on. It's not going to compete with Universal. It never intended to, and I don't think it ever will, right? It's not a theme park as well. That's the other thing. It is an amusement park. So, you know, even I've said in some people, so look at the theming on Evictus. It's not really themed. It's not Universal level. It's not Disney level. There's just some touches to it and a wee bit of a backstory. So this next one caught me off guard when I visited. I kind of went in with very low expectations and actually had a really, really, really good day. And that is Great Yarmouth Pleasure Beach. Now, I kind of, even when I stood outside the park, I was sort of looking at it going, all right, it's just a bunch of kind of, almost like travelling fair kind of thing. The roller coaster that's there, called the roller coaster, is brilliant, absolutely fantastic. You know, it's an old school Woody, it's got the brakeman on it, you know, you get on and off it whilst it's still moving. It's absolutely bonkers. Back row, I did it with Ben from Ben and Holly's Adventures, and it was just so much fun. And I took Carly and Sophie with me, and they also had very low expectations. It was one of the best days they'd had last year in a park. So definitely a great park from that point of view. And I think it's pretty good value as well. Like the food offerings were pretty good. We had the unlimited wristbands, but again, there is the token-based option or kind of like paper ride sort of thing, so kind of caters for both categories. If you're going to be there for a full day, get the wristband. If you just want to do a couple of rides, pay for what you want. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Right, we're starting to get into the big boys now, and this is always where there's going to be some contention, right? We're all going to have different opinions on this one, and that is totally fine. The next one I've got on my list is Alton Towers. Now, this is a park I want to love more than I do. It's a park I went to as a child, not as much as Blackpool. That was definitely my childhood park, but I did go Alton Towers numerous times. I'm sure I was there the year off or 1 or 2 years after Nemesis opened. Like, I've been going there for a long time. It's a bit of a frustrating one. Its location isn't ideal. And again, that's probably subjective, right? Because it is a beautiful location with the gardens and stuff. It's just really bloody difficult to get to. Like, even if you've got a car, it's not the easiest road to get on. And if you need public transport, good luck. So it seems to be the forgotten child at the moment. I'm not convinced Merlin is that fussed about it. I could be completely wrong. My personal opinion on this one is, so many people have talked about Merlin selling it, and I am curious if that's on the cards, but I also think it's a bit of a cash cow for them. It feels like right now Merlin are taking all the money from Towers, because it's popular, chucking it down south. I don't think anything's going to change anytime soon. Obviously, we've had some great investments in terms of Forbidden Valley is stunning. Like, it is great. If the rest of the park looked like that, I don't think anybody would be complaining. I know there's a lot of frustrations that this park particularly tends to sort of recycle old rides. People think Toxicator is Ripsaw 2.0, Nemesis, Reborn, bring back Nemesis Subterra, all these kind of things that people are just like, you're just rehashing old favourites. And I don't disagree with that. Obviously, we want to see the rest of the park get some love. Bluey Coaster, sure. I'm really curious to see what the future of this is. It's obviously got a new guy in charge. I'm not convinced that's going to make much difference. No disrespect to the guy. I just think his hands are tied in the same way that Bianca's were by those further up the food chain. So, yeah, I want to love it more than where it is. So, Drayton Manor is a park that it seems to divide people because, again, this used to be a park with those thrilling rides, right? It used to have Apocalypse, it used to have Pandemonium, it used to have XYZ, G-Force, etc. Never went on G-Force. Not a fan of those trains, but I still would have liked to have experienced it. And it's obviously now very, very focused on family. And I think that is, in a way, one of its strengths, right? It is very clear on who it's aimed at, and it does a bloody good job of aiming at that audience. It does have some frustrations though, like the operations are not ideal. Almost everything is single train. I think Gold Rush might be the exception to that. Obviously Accelerator can only be single train, it's a boomerang. But a lot of the times it's just that second train would be nice. It is a beautiful park though. They've done a great job in retheming stuff and kind of giving every area a distinct kind of feel. And I am curious about this whole rumour that's gone around whether or not the Pirates Adventure or whatever it used to be called is making a comeback. But it's definitely a park that's worth checking out. Maybe not though if you're into thrills. Right, next up I'm going to group 3 or 4 parks into one because they're kind of pretty similar in terms of what they offer. They are all of the Gulliver's parks. And I've visited 3 out of the 4 of them. I've not been to Milton Keynes yet. This is a strange set of parks. It is very laser focused at what it does. It is definitely aiming at that younger audience. I think they claim it's up to the age of 13. I disagree with that because I went with a 13-year-old, mine by the way, not some random 13-year-old, and she wasn't that impressed with it at all. It is, however, excellent value for money. Right? That is one thing you cannot disagree with. They are very, very reasonably priced. It's also a park you can get into without a kid. Now, I've managed to get in there through some kind of organised events, and as I say, I did take my daughter to one of them. So if you're not that kind of younger audience, you're probably going to think, what on earth is this park or these parks? Because they are definitely a little bit strange. But I think if you are that younger audience, it's perfect for them. Right, so there's probably a couple of obvious parks left now that you're starting to think, right, which way around are you going to do these? And it's a little bit tricky because for me personally, I probably would have these 2 the other way around to what I'm about to say. But again, I'm trying to be fair and look at these holistically, and as such, in number 2, I have put Thorpe Park. Now, this is, for me, the most kind of appealing park in the UK because it has all the thrill rides, right? It's very clear in its demographic. It's aiming at that thrill market. There are a handful of smaller kids' family rides, but they're kind of more token gestures, right? And I've had somebody in my comments saying I really hope they keep them because whilst it's not their core demographic, when I bring my teenage son, there's something for my younger daughter, whoever it was. And I get that, that's fair. Obviously, they got Hyperia, Swarm, etc., Colossus. I can take that or leave it, to be honest with you. And so I'm not a huge fan of. So it's not got a perfect ride lineup by any stretch of the imagination. It's got a very clear demographic of who it's going for. and I think it's one of the better parks out there. One to watch. I'd love to see another attraction come in the next few years, and I suspect we'll see something. Right, so that leaves number one, and I mean, this one's also no surprise because this park keeps winning awards. In fact, at the UK Theme Park Awards last year, they pretty much wiped the floor with most of the other parks. And that is Polton's Park. This is an interesting one because to a lot of people, it's Peppa Pig Land. And obviously it has Peppa Pig Land, that is definitely one of the areas, but it's so much more than that. Now, it is not a thrilling park, so you know, it's not going to cater for the same people that Thorpe Park do, but it is a very well-rounded park. It's a very well-maintained park. It's a very well-themed park as well, and it's a park that is constantly actively investing. You know, they had a water ride a couple of years ago. They got Ghostly Manor last year. They're getting the whole kind of Valgard and Dracon this year. There's a water something coming next year. They're talking about accommodation. You know, they're putting in solar panels everywhere. They've still got free parking, which is rare in a theme park nowadays, especially in the UK. So it's just such a well-rounded park, and it's pretty good value for money as well. So not perfect if you are a thrill seeker for sure, but if you've never been to the park, you really need to go because it is a beautiful park. That is my current breakdown on the parks that I have visited in the UK. There's obviously some smaller parks that I've not included or not been to. I'd love to know your thoughts on this one, because I guarantee there are some that you would move around and disagree with. But as always, I've been Chris, you've been watching Coast to Dad, and I'll see you in the next one. Adios.